Hello and welcome to Horror Cult Trash Other, the show that discusses all the masterpieces and trash to pieces of genre cinema. My name's Chris.
I'm Gary.
And this week we are discussing a film that falls into a lot of our yearly categories, particularly for this year. It's a video nasty. It's hagsploitation. It's really queer.
Yep.
It's Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker.
It is.
Which is a fantastic title.
It is.
Not really in keeping with anything in the film.
It's also called The Evil Protege.
Yes.
Night Warning.
Okay.
Mother's Dead.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And On the Verge of the Nightmare.
Right. So Mother's Dead is the only one that's really relevant to the plot of the film. Because his mother is dead.
I mean, I love Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, the title, but I don't know what it means.
It's I mean, I'm assuming it's Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker, which is a nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
Which the film being about mothers makes sense. But it would make more sense if she sang it in the film.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, she doesn't sing that nursery rhyme
unfortunately,
at all in the film. But anyway, it's great. The poster's great.
Yeah.
Very saucy, I suppose is the word.
Very homoerotic.
Kind of, yeah. If you ignore the woman behind him.
His body is the one that is on full display. That twink is the face of the poster.
Absolutely.
But before we discuss it any further...
Yes.
What about what's new with Chris and Gary?
What a really fucking good week for first time watches. My favourite of the week, and this was very close, was Handmaiden.
Yeah.
The Park Chan-wook masterpiece.
Same.
That I have no reason why we hadn't watched it a lot earlier.
Depending on what you see as erotic thrillers, I do think this is the best erotic thriller ever made.
Yes. I mean, it's erotic and it's a thriller. I think it's maybe a little too prestigious to be on Channel 5 on a Friday night.
Film 4.
Film 4, yes. Yes, definitely. But yeah, fantastic, brilliant. Won't talk too much about it because there's twists and turns and revelations that I would never want to give away. I was so pleased that they weren't given away to worse.
I know, amazing. Like, the film's been out since 2016 and we've never had it spoiled for us.
No, absolutely fantastic film. Really highly recommend. Probably made it in to my top, potentially 25 films ever. Like, really, it was that good.
Yeah.
But then I have another best of the week because I didn't have a worst.
I have a second best as well.
Yes, and for me this was really, really close. There was 3 up for contention, but for me it's Rebel Without a Cause.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't expect that.
Yes.
Wow.
It was very close, and ask me tomorrow and it might change. Who really cares that much? But Rebel Without a Cause, watched for the first time. I love that Americana sort of filmmaking. I love the 50s aesthetic. I love that they were all teenagers, but it looked at least 30 in some cases. I thought it was brilliant, amazing, compelling. James Dean was a star who, in another universe went on to win Oscars and all that business, and loved it. What was your second?
My second favorite, I mean, that's definitely one of my honorable mentions, but my second favorite is The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yes.
That it's another film where it's like 2017 and we haven't had it spoiled for us.
No.
Very fortunate, because this had me on the edge of my seat from start to finish. Just an absolute masterclass in filmmaking. Yorgos Lanthimos' second best film, if you ask me. Poor Things being the first. Because, I mean, we're pretty much up to date now on the films that are available. So, also an honourable mention is The Lobster.
Yes.
Which is also fantastic. great to watch during Pride Month. Very much a film about asexuality and demisexuality.
Yes.
And I also enjoyed Alps. I thought Alps was a clever comedy with a good premise. Could have been better, but had its moments.
I liked Alps. It's the weakest of his films that we've seen, but that's not really saying
Mm,
much, really, because everything is so wonderful.
yeah.
I think he is such a unique filmmaker. Really, really enjoyed Killing of a Sacred Deer. Very tense, and The Lobster. Quite a dark comedy at times.
Hmm.
Loved it. Loved the performances. Yeah, really, highly recommend all of his films. Really,
Yeah.
to anyone.
Nicole Kidman proved that sometimes heartbreak does not feel good in a place like this.
No, no, it doesn't.
Um, Honorable mentions. Do you have any?
Not really.
No. Well, I'll just go
No.
and mention Head Over Heels then.
Oh, Head Over Heels, of course.
Could have been a 4-star film if it didn't have Ronan Keating at the end.
Uh,
If
Head Over
you
Heels.
ever wanted to see Sex and the City meets Rear Window meets Miss Congeniality, this is your film.
Yeah, if you can forgive men writing women pretty badly,
Yeah.
uh, you're in for an enjoyable film. It's silly, it's stupid, it's very 2001. Um, but if you have low expectations, you're gonna have a great time. Yeah, I'm gonna say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna stick by it.
Well, speaking of gay things, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. Spoiler warning is now in effect.
Yes, and also a trigger warning for sexual assault and
Yes.
homophobia
Yeah.
slash homophobic
Mm-hmm.
language. There are numerous occasions where
Yes.
homophobia is prevalent, and we will have to discuss it quite
Mm-hmm.
in depth.
Yeah. But despite, how that sounds right now, this is
Mm.
actually a very progressive film.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it does what, in terms of the homophobia, it does what we say film should do.
Yeah.
It deals with it. It looks at it from a particular angle, and it incorporates it into the plot. It's a massive part of the film,
Mm-hmm.
massive part of the story. And yeah, it's very forward
It is.
for a slasher film in 1981,
Yeah.
or at least what was marketed as purely a slasher film in
Mm-hmm.
1981.
Yeah. Yeah. I was very surprised the first time I watched this to see a film, a slasher film from the 80s, in which the homophobes are the villains
Mm.
and there's a gay protagonist.
Yeah, yeah. It was on so many queer horror lists. I kind of assumed that it would be weird, like maybe played as a joke,
Mm,
the homosexual aspects of the film. Obviously, before watching it, yeah, pleasantly surprised.
yeah. So it's directed by William Asher,
Mm-hmm.
who went on.
Asher. Oh. That's a Spring of a Teenage Witch reference.
So he did not
That
go on to
no one will
be
get.
in Sabrina the Teenage Witch,
No.
but what he did go on to do was direct Leather Gloves, The Shadow. Well, went on to do. That was his first film, Leather Gloves. So he'd been directing since 1948.
Mm-hmm.
He made Leather Gloves, The Shadow on the Window, The 27th Day, Beach Party, Johnny Cool, Bikini Beach, Muscle Beach Party, Beach Blanket Bingo, How to Stuff a Wild Bikini,
Yeah.
Fireball 500, and Movers and Shakers.
Yeah, so mainly known for TV, I would say. TV and beach party movies.
Yeah.
So he directed many, many episodes of I Love Lucy
Mm-hmm.
and Bewitched, which were two
Yeah.
massive programs. So it's giving the work's dried up, now I'm directing a slasher film
Yeah.
energy. It's who is the director who did the Planet of the Apes films? and then did two quite good slasher films in 10 to Midnight. Is it J. Lee
I
Thompson?
think so.
Yes, yes. So it's very much giving the studio don't want me
Yeah.
anymore. So now I have to do a video nasty.
Yes.
Thank God.
And it was written by Steve Brymer. This is his only film. Co-written by Alan J. Gluckman. So he did Ruskies, Gross Anatomy, It Nearly Wasn't Christmas, The Face of Fear, The Fear Inside, Swamp Thing TV series, and an episode of Xena Warrior Princess.
Oh, nice.
And also co-written by Boone Collins, who did Sleepover Nightmare, Abducted, Spirit of the Eagle, Abducted 2, The Return, The Protector, Escape to Grizzly Mountain, and a couple more.
Yes. One of the of note, one of these, not to say that the other wasn't of note, but the opening sequence was the cinematographer was Jan de Bont,
Yeah.
Han de Bont, excuse me, who was cinematographer for a lot of the Paul Verhoeven films, including Basic Instinct and Flesh and Blood, and went on to direct Speed, Speed 2, Cruise Control, The Haunting remake, Cradle of Life, Tomb Raider, Cradle of Life, and Twister. So yeah, a few.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the opening scene is shocking.
Yeah.
It really, I didn't see it coming. We'll get to that when we get to discussing the film, but definitely directed by someone who would go on to make action films.
Yes, definitely.
Budget unknown, and I don't know how much it made worldwide. This information is not readily available. No one involved in the film's creative process has ever given an on-record interview about the genesis for the film. It apparently began as a novel. A book released around the same time as the film under the title Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker is far more complex than a simple novelization. It includes vivid physical descriptions of the characters that often differ greatly from the actors' on-screen presence, as well as in-depth backstories for several characters, including secondary characters who receive little screen time. The book also leaves it a mystery until far later in the narrative as to what happened to Billy's parents, and also continues on past the film's ending, wrapping up the stories of several characters whose fates are not addressed in the film's epilogue.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, you can tell because of the little title card at the end that there was definitely more to be added, but maybe budget didn't stretch that far.
Yeah, it doesn't even hit the hour and a half mark.
No.
So I think budget constraints were very much led to these pieces being missed from what was in the novel.
Mm-hmm. And of course, under the title Nightmare Maker, it was one of the original UK video nasties on the DPP 72 list, and was later resubmitted for a UK video certificate as the Evil Protege, and that was in 1987, and it was rejected again by the BBFC. And it's recently only been released in the UK within the last few months.
Yeah.
On Severin Films 4K.
Oh wow, not even on DVD.
No.
Or streaming.
I mean, it may have got a what's that label that you've got a book on?
Vipco.
It may have had a Vipco under one of its many titles.
Oh, okay.
But as far as I know, this would have been the first release for it. Because we watched it on Shudder originally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's thanks to Severin Films for sending us the 4K.
Yes. Yeah, it looks fantastic. Yeah, highly recommend buying that.
And it was nominated for a Saturn Award for the Best Horror Movie of 1982 by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy and Horror.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Very surprised it didn't get Razzie attention because I don't think it deserves it, but Susan Tyrrell's performance kind of screams Razzies who don't understand camp.
Potentially. It probably just a little under the radar.
Yeah.
I suppose. Was Susan Tyrrell ever nominated for a Razzie? I feel like she's probably unjustly been nominated once or twice. She was no, she was Oscar nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Fat City.
Nice.
Saturn Award winner, Best Supporting Actress for Andy Warhol's Bad.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Well, speaking of, should we talk about who's in it?
yes, in a section we like to call. Do you want to hear further about Susan Tyrrell?
Yes. Susan
Further
Tyrrell,
adventures of Susan Tyrrell,
who never saw the film because she believed it to be awful until an interview in 2008. After watching it, she said she enjoyed it, and she wore a wig through much of the film until her Jean Slater haircut during the last half hour. Nicole Kidman will be proud.
She's definitely given.
Yeah, her hair was quite short in real life. It was a choice. She plays Cheryl Roberts, a role originally written for Patty Duke.
Oh, okay.
Which is surprising because, I mean, Susan Tyrrell absolutely owns it.
Yeah.
Like, this is her role.
Yeah. Well, Patty Duke won the Oscar, though, so she was probably a bigger name.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Susan Tyrrell was in Cry Baby, Andy Warhol's Bad, Fat City, Forbidden Zone, Angel, Avenging Angel, The Demolitionist, Fire and Ice, Powder, Kid Thing, Masked and Anonymous, Poison Ivy 3, The New Seduction, and more.
B movie goddess.
Yeah.
Really just a scene stealer in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Never been anyone like her on screen.
No.
Before or after. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's a essence. You know, when there's a sort of singular talent that comes along.
Yeah.
I said it the other day about Nathan Lane,
uh-huh.
where no one else does that. No one else looks like that. No one else sounds like that. No one else can act or sing or perform like that. And yeah, very much a singular talent, Susan Tyrrell. I'd love to make my way through pretty much all of her films except Powder.
She kind of reminds me of the one from Blood Rage. Who was that?
Blood Rage. Oh, Louise Lasseter.
Perhaps.
Yes,
she gives that same energy.
Yeah, the kind of slightly off performance, and then really off by the end.
Yeah. Bo Svensson plays Detective Joe Carlson. He was in Inglourious Bastards, Kill Bill Volume 2, the Quentin Tarantino.
Oh.
Quentin Tarantino fucking loves this film. You know he does.
Of
you know
course.
he's tried to cast everyone from the film in his films.
Yes.
Final Chapter, Walking Tall, North Dallas 40, Armor of God, Speed 2, Cruise Control, Maniac Killer, and more.
Okay.
Now, I mean, him and Susan Tyrrell, they provide a masterclass in really making you hate their characters. Like, they are the villains of the film, and they don't waste a single second letting you know that.
No.
And it really takes a top-class performance to be able to do that.
Chewing the scenery.
Make it believable.
Yes.
Jimmy McNichol plays Billy Lynch. He was in Smokey Bites the Dust, Planet View, Escape from El Diablo, Little House on the Prairie, Decker, Champions, A Love Story, Blinded by the Light, and more. Bill Paxton was considered for this role.
Okay.
After a good audition. But the producers wanted the role to go to a known star. They didn't. I think I've missed out a word there. I would say Jimmy McNichol wasn't as known as Bill Paxton.
Afterwards.
I don't know, 1981.
Afterwards.
So maybe Jimmy McNichol was known. Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming he was randomly in some American TV series that we've never heard
I've
of.
wrote myself out of it in my notes. Paxton, an unknown actor at the time, was then cast in the supporting role of Eddie. Yeah, so Jimmy McNichol, I assume he was well known for his TV work.
I would assume so. Yeah, because like Bo Svensson, I mean, I don't really know him either, but I feel like he was famous. He was like a known name. Yeah, I'm trying to do my research, but I can't see. There must be something that he was known
I mean, I think
for.
he was in a few episodes of Little House on the Prairie, so that kind of makes me think that
maybe that was a big show. I don't know this. I suppose with it's been from the the UK.
Yeah.
If it was Letitia Dean, we'd be like, yeah, of course.
Well, yeah.
Household name.
But yes, Bill Paxton, a very early role for him. He plays Eddie, and he obviously went on to be in The Terminator, Aliens, Predator 2, Titanic, Weird Science, Frailty, Apollo 13, Twister, Near Dark, A Simple Plan, Brain Dead, True Lies. Honestly, an iconic actor within the genre. We previously spoke about in the Terminator episode. He's just something about him that's so charismatic, and I'm glad after this and Weird Science he didn't get typecast as the homophobe and everything.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, yeah, of course.
Do you have any more?
Yeah, Sergeant Cook, played by Britt Leach, who was also in Weird Science, but you may remember from Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes, Mr. Sims.
Mr. Sims. And then other completely random things, including Baby Boom and Father of the Bride, the Steve Martin Father of the Bride.
Of course.
Yes.
Not the remake.
No, not the original. That is.
No, there's another remake.
Oh, so the original is Elizabeth Taylor and Spencer Tracy.
I think the new one is Mother of the Bride.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. And Julia Duffy plays Julie, which was very confusing for my notes. Because
30-year-old Julie.
30-year-old Julia Duffy. So Julia Duffy was in Intolerable Cruelty, Cutter's Way, Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh, Dumb and Dumberer, When Harry Met Lloyd.
Oof.
And
ouch.
The Love Boat, A Valentine Voyage, and Menu for Murder, starring one of our favourites, Miss Morgan Fairchild.
Nice.
But Julia Duffy went on to star in Newhart, which was a big comedy show. I distinctly remember, because I'm that kind of gay, watching all the awards ceremonies where the Golden Girls were nominated and won. And Julia Duffy came up a lot, so she was very, very sort of well known for Newhart.
Yeah,
where she played, I think, a rather annoying character. So she had good practice in this film.
I don't think she's that bad.
No,
I'm on Julia's side here.
Okay,
when she stands up for homophobia, that makes up for the rest of it. And that little fight in the swamp, girl.
Yeah, okay, I'll give her that.
She's giving Adrian King at the end.
Well, yes.
Well, yes.
Well, yes.
And what makes this gay?
Oh.
So, of course, it's been noted for being an early film to portray a homosexual male character as a positive figure. With Tom Landers, Billy's gay basketball coach who's subjected to homophobia and later comes to Billy and Julia's rescue in the final sequence.
Yes.
I think there's a lot to be said about Billy being a queer-coded character himself. I think he's potentially bisexual.
Yes.
And it also takes a very interesting look at the treatment of gay people by police officers in the 80s.
Absolutely. Very much a big plot point is the homophobia of the police at the time. Both directly homophobic with the Bo Svensson character, but then also passively homophobic and judgmental from is it Lieutenant Cook as well. So the police aren't seen in the best light in this film, are they?
No, and around this time, it's a sort of representation you kind of needed to raise awareness and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when they're meant to be people you can trust, and obviously, tales all the time, as old as time, for many minorities, police are meant to be people you can trust, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about our feature presentation.
An unsuspecting boy comes home to murder. Suddenly, his life becomes a nightmare.
Did you kill him?
No! Was it the vicious act of a tormented stranger, or is it someone close to home? Caught in a web of bloody horror, he must find the truth or be the next victim. A chilling nightmare explodes in pure terror. See Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. Rated R.
Starts Friday at a theater near you.
So, high school senior Billy Lynch lives with his protective aunt Cheryl, who has raised him since infancy after his parents died in a car accident. So we open with Susan Tyrrell in a pussycat wig. She's looking after an infant Billy whilst his parents wave them off. The brakes on Billy's parents' car stop working, and they end up crashing into a truck carrying logs. It's very Final Destination 2.
Yeah, Final Destination 2 definitely borrowed this.
Now, apparently in the novel, it's less obvious that Aunt Cheryl is behind all of this. Within the film, there is a very sinister freeze frame on Aunt Cheryl's face before the credits.
It's no secret.
Yeah, this suggests that she may have something to do with it. Yeah, pretty much. To be fair, though, with novels, with books, you get a blurb at the back and it tells you whatever. But trailers have to make up a certain amount of time, and so we kind of have to we're gonna know going into it that Aunt Cheryl is a murderer, because it's probably, you're gonna have to put it in the trailer, or it's gonna be a really boring trailer. So
I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen the full trailer, but the TV spot kind of keeps it like a mystery.
Do we know if she did it or not? Okay.
Like, who's killing, I mean, as our listeners will have just heard, who's killing these people and so on.
Which makes no sense, because, yeah, that freeze frame is undeniable.
It is.
That little smirk. It is.
But then you think back to the poster, it's like, what does the poster tell you? Because whose eye is that in the knife? I think it makes it obvious
that it might be him. Because he is at the centre, isn't he? With his top off.
And the night warning poster, it's just the two of them running.
Okay. So maybe marketed. Well, anyway.
It's either way.
Either this is the filmmakers or Susan Tyrrell as well, because by all accounts she thought the film was a piece of shit. And she deliberately camped it up. She didn't take it very seriously, and the film is so much better for it. So if she deliberately did the smirk to give it away at the beginning, I don't know. But
if you didn't know, then you would know in the first 5 minutes.
It's definitely her. So we then cut to a teenage Billy who is now a gifted basketball player. Billy is offered a chance at a scholarship to attend the University of Denver, but Cheryl dismisses the idea, assuming that Billy will stay with her to contribute, as it's put. Susan Tyrrell has a longer wig now.
She does.
She's going for that 70s flick, like the Farrah Fawcett curls, but it's noticeably synthetic, should we say?
Yes. Yeah.
It's not, how would they describe it on Drag Race? A human unit.
Yes.
I think they describe it as. How do we know that Billy is a basketball player? Is it because he has a fucking basketball in his hand for his first 5 minutes on screen?
It's true. They don't want
in bed, in the kitchen, at school.
It's glued to him.
It's glued to him. This is a hell of a lot of basketball in this film. More... Well, slightly less than Space Jam, a bit more than Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
As I haven't seen Teen Wolf, but I stole that from a review. Don't tell anyone.
Do you know when someone had their willy out on the set of Teen Wolf?
Apparently that wasn't.
No?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, don't ruin it.
Did you do research?
I've seen the clip.
Did you zoom in on your TV?
YouTube did that for me.
There we go. So there's something a little off about Aunt Cheryl, as we already know, but even more so. She makes very weird noises at Billy to wake him up.
Yeah.
Billy sleeps in his underwear. He's, I don't know, what would you say the percentage is? Probably a third of the film he's got his top off.
Maybe more.
Maybe more.
Did he own a shirt?
She loves to leave candles unattended. Yeah. Which I hate. You know I hate that. She even has a lit candle next to her bed when she wakes up.
I think anyone's done fan fiction of Billy in this and Jesse from Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Ooh,
someone in the 80s.
Yeah.
When internet porn wasn't readily available.
That's such... Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's a great double bill as well. Definitely. Aunt Cheryl, in reference to Billy's upcoming birthday meal, tells him, I'm going to be your date tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, she wastes absolutely no time. Susan Tyrrell wastes no time in letting us know the type of character she is. She's batshit crazy. She's fucking so frustrating to watch. Because of how good this performance is, she is a proper proper villain, and she does such a good job of it. She's so camp.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. One thing this film does so well is its ability to be over the top camp, but also so intense as well. So you know this twink is in danger.
The twink is in danger.
He is in danger with her, and you kind of want to shake him and like, look, seriously, open your eyes, get the fuck out of there. But it's a testament to Susan Tyrrell's fantastic performance.
Yeah, but also, so a big influence on the story as well is the Oedipus story, which deals with incest.
Yeah.
Essentially. So we get the idea that Aunt Cheryl is a little, very weird with Billy. It's uncomfortable. But Billy seems either oblivious to this or plays into it to a certain extent. So it doesn't get too, I suppose, on the nose with it, essentially. There are moments throughout, and it sort of plays more into Aunt Cheryl's character, but it doesn't cross the line, I suppose, into really icky territory. It's icky, but it doesn't take away from the main plot of the film. It's just part of it, and it helps to build the character of Aunt Cheryl, helps to build the story, and also build the shock and the horror, because it is a horror film, and we're horrified at the insinuation that she is sexually attracted to her nephew.
Yeah.
And potentially he is playing into that as well. So it's a uncomfortable film to watch, and it's kind of the point. And yeah, we'll see that further down the line. So at school, Billy is bullied by one of his basketball teammates, Eddie, who is jealous of Billy's close camaraderie with their coach, Tom Landers. Meanwhile, Julie, the school newspaper photographer, begins to take a romantic interest in Billy.
I wrote Julia in my notes.
It's Julie. It's Julie, played by Julia.
If we say either of those names, you know who we're talking about.
Yes, Miss Duffy.
Do we think this jealousy, do we think it's for more than just coaching?
Yeah, I think the stereotype, and it's not one that I enjoy too much, but sometimes it rings true, is that the most homophobic people are secretly gay themselves.
Yeah.
So potentially there could be a little jealousy there, not just of the attention, but of the attention, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Also, Billy, actor, was 20 years old at the time playing this role.
Yes.
Julie, 30 years old.
30. Doesn't look it, though.
Doesn't look it. Good for her.
Props to her. Doesn't look it. Beautiful young woman. Girl next door type. Giving Laura Dern.
Yeah.
Blue Velvet kind of,
Yeah.
Is my boyfriend gay? What's he got himself into? Is Isabella Rossellini
a
drag queen in this? That kind of interpretation of the story. So we get a little shirtless basketball action for those who would be interested in that sort of thing.
Yes.
I think they call it shirts versus skins.
Shirts and skins, yeah.
Very American.
Yes.
You wouldn't get anything close to that in the UK. Like,
thank God.
Seriously. Could you imagine they turn around and say, particularly whilst you're at school, you lot are topless, you lot have shirts on. Absolutely not. That is a very...
I barely liked going fucking swimming in primary school, let alone basketball without a shirt on.
Yeah, absolutely not. That's very American. Eddie is our first homophobic character of the film, as we've discussed. He says to Billy, next time, keep your queer hands off of me. Despite them being on the same team. No pun intended there.
He's playing his weird science character.
Basically.
Glad he got out of it.
On Billy's 17th birthday, Cheryl changes her mind about the scholarship and asks Billy to stop by the television repair shop to have the shop technician Phil Brody come by to look at their set. That night, after Phil works on their television, Cheryl makes aggressive sexual advances towards him. When he refuses, Cheryl stabs him to death with a kitchen knife, which Billy witnesses through the window. Cheryl hysterically claims Phil tried to rape her. She and this is Susan Tyrrell camp.
Yeah.
High octane
Uh-huh.
performance. She says, "I need a man."
Yes, all this because she needs a man.
She's oh my god, who is it? Turns out she didn't need a man, but she sang the song anyway in the 80s. What's her name? Hazel Dean.
That's true. Give him the same hairstyle as well.
Yeah. But Susan Tyrrell is so unhinged. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Very entertaining. A bigoted police detective and former Marine and Purple Heart recipient, Joe Carlson, is assigned to the case and is skeptical of Cheryl and the alleged rape attempt.
And the Mr. Sims guy, when he arrives there, he's like, poor guy, definitely wasn't his day. Didn't even get his pecker out.
No. So this is also a comment. This character is a comment on homophobia in the police force, but also you could say in the army as well.
Yeah,
we are at the time where I don't think anyone would have been openly gay in the army.
No.
Yes, it's before don't ask, don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't tell and you won't get kicked out sort of thing, I feel, but yeah, very interesting character. He doesn't believe Cheryl, not because he doesn't he thinks that she did it because she's insane or because she had some sort of grudge against Phil Brody. It's because he doesn't believe women.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, because throughout the film the Lieutenant Cook tries to pin it on Cheryl, quite rightfully so. But he doesn't believe that, and he goes after Billy throughout the whole film because he's homophobic, but also doesn't believe women. He doesn't, he isn't talking about Billy protecting Aunt Cheryl.
No.
And then Aunt Cheryl taking the rap to protect Billy. It's Billy is a queer, therefore he is a murderer because queers are weird and all of that business. So after discovering that Phil Brody was gay and that he was in a same-sex relationship with Billy's coach Tom, Detective Carlson assumes the murder to be the result of a love triangle between Phil, Tom, and Billy, and that Cheryl is covering for her nephew. So this basically what I just said. He's basing his investigation on this love triangle gone wrong because queers are by nature deviants, and therefore they would murder for love. It's a I'm sure there's a lovely French term for it that I can't remember, but a passionate murder, should I say. So in the attic, after dramatically falling down the stairs for no apparent reason, Billy finds a photo of a man named Chuck, whom Cheryl claims was one of his mother's old boyfriends. Now this seems a bit of a throwaway thing, and it's a little confusing because Chuck looks exactly like Billy's father.
Yes.
So, I'll mention it again, but Aunt Cheryl talks to a photo of Chuck throughout the film. She does. But I thought it was Billy's father, so it was very confusing. But Chuck does play a part in the film, so it's important that we had this very over-the-top dramatic stunt work.
Performed by the actor himself.
Yeah, nice. Did he perform all his basketball himself as well?
Probably, yes.
So Carlson begins questioning Billy, accusing him of being a fag, and harasses Tom, forcing him to resign from his job at the high school. I say that not meaning a cigarette.
Yes.
Yes.
He just he blurts it out again and again and again and again during this scene.
Yeah, a delightful conversation. Really delightful.
Yeah, he in case his little hints at being homophobic before weren't enough, this confirms it. And
it's not subtle.
Yeah, And meanwhile, you've got Aunt Cheryl in the background. It's like, you filthy pig! You think you got it all figured out, don't you? Well, you're wrong. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this guy has nowhere to turn now. Like, no matter where he's going, he's in trouble.
Yeah, and it's a pretty sleazy film in general, really, and this language, is shocking now.
Yeah,
but it's, I mean, in the 80s, we watch a lot of 80s films, and we are shocked and surprised.
Yeah,
At the flippant use of the word, really, and we shouldn't be, I suppose. But I mean, even Laura Dern said it in the 80s.
I mean, Laura Dern's allowed to say it.
She's allowed to say it. I mean, and it is just acting. You know, I don't think Bo Svensson was a homophobe, so it works for the character. It's a slasher film. It's over the top.
Yeah,
you are going to use the word. You don't have to have subtlety in these films.
It's true.
For it to mean something or to feel artistic.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I take issue with it is if it's a film that's made by straight people and using slurs as comedic relief.
Of course.
That's where I think that's where I draw the line where it's not okay. Like, when you're portraying a character who is homophobic, of course he's gonna speak like that. You know, that's to be expected. I think we live in an age where people can't separate the actor and the character. So I think
the writer and the
director. So I think this film, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would find issue with it now, but I honestly think, you know, this feels authentic. This is how this guy would have spoke. A homophobic police officer would have spoke back then.
Absolutely.
You know, just watch a few documentaries. It's all you need to do, and they'll give you all the information you need. You have to have been around back then to know.
And this is my personal taste, is that I don't think films have to have a subtlety about them. I think sometimes they can be brash, in your face, sleazy, and still be relevant to the topic. You know, this is a homophobic cop in 1981 who is investigating what he believes to be a murder based on sexuality. And he hates it, and he hates everybody involved. And so he is going to say those words.
Yeah.
Because he knows he can get away with it too. There's never any mention of him being, you know, anyone speaking to his superiors at the police office, the post office, the police station. There's no mention of that because that wouldn't happen.
No,
that would not happen. So yeah, the delightful conversation. I won't go too much into it, but yeah, he says faggot a lot, and finishes with your wrist. Keep it all limp like. That shouldn't be too difficult for you. When he gives Billy some recommendations on his basketball skills.
Yeah, and it's followed by a conversation with Cheryl as well, isn't it? Where she asks Billy, "Did you know that Coach Landis is a homosexual?" Homosexuals are very sick people, and Billy's like, "Coach Landis isn't sick." And this is, again, it spells it out for you. Okay, this guy leading the film is an ally / potential bisexual character, and even Aunt Cheryl, she's a homophobic villain.
Absolutely, and a massive hypocrite.
Yeah,
you know, she's not one to judge. Why is it the number one, the detective who is completely wrong about his insinuations?
Yeah,
because we know the truth. He's completely wrong about everything. He's homophobic, so he's a twat, you know, an arsehole. And then Aunt Cheryl, who we know is a deranged killer.
Yeah.
She's also homophobic.
Yeah, she draws the line at same-sex relationships,
Absolutely.
but she's fine with murdering.
But if you're not a fan of homophobia, but a fan of homoeroticism, this next scene is right up your alley, no pun intended, because Eddie insinuates the same thing that everyone else is insinuating about Billy, and Billy pours milk over him.
Is that milk? It looks like a pot of yogurt.
It's
to me.
milk, but maybe creamier than your average milk. And they have a little tussle at school. The milk mustache on Billy's top lip maybe wasn't helping his case before the fight. And Julie's hysterics during the fight may sway Billy in a certain direction.
Yeah.
If he is leaning towards one way or the other, Julie's hysterics and kind of annoying screeching. I'm sorry. She helps herself by the end, but I did find her quite annoying at the beginning. Carlson also inquires from Julie about her and Billy's sexual relationship. He very bluntly, obviously, says, "Are you two making it?" And Julie says, "He's more of a man than you'll ever be."
Exactly.
So she's definitely an ally anyway. But she does not believe Billy is a homosexual. Because that evening, Julie and Billy make it. Julie, she still brings up the conversation with Carlson, though, suggesting that she may have some doubts about Billy's heterosexuality. So he gives her another good scene too.
He does.
Twice in one evening. Lucky Julie and lucky Billy as well. This time though, it's interrupted by Aunt Cheryl when she comes home and finds them in bed together, and she says, "You get dressed and get that slut out of here."
Yes, she goes and has a chat with the photo of Chuck. Perverts and sluts, they're doing everything they can to take him away from us. And it's like, okay, hang on a minute. So, spoiler alert, she's his mum. It's later revealed that she's his mum. She's slut shaming Julie. But, I mean, as far as she knows, she's no evidence to suggest otherwise. That could have literally been... Billy could be the only person she's ever slept with.
Yeah.
So, technically, does it make her a slut as well? Mm-hmm. If sleeping with one person makes you a slut...
Yeah.
Then, you know, Cheryl should probably look in the mirror.
Yeah, of course. You know, she's a huge hypocrite. Massively. And, of course, at Taylor Zolder's time, it's the female that is slut-shamed.
Yeah.
Billy can't do any wrong.
Uh-huh.
He's not slut-shamed. It's Julie. We then cut to a uncomfortable scene where Cheryl interrupts Billy as he's getting in the shower, because we need to even up the nudity between the genders. Because we had a little bit of Julie's bit of nudity from her in the sex scene. So we have to even it up. And she's, talking to him whilst he's... I mean, we don't see it, but pretty much she can see everything. We can
see his ass.
Yeah, we can see his ass, but... very uncomfortable. He's far too old for her to be in the bathroom. I mean, I wasn't, to quote Sex and the City, I wasn't raised in a naked house.
No.
So, I don't know. It's uncomfortable for me to watch. I don't know. At the station, Cook and Carlson have another lovely conversation. Sergeant Cook says, "Well, for one thing, Miss Roberts caught Julie and the boy in the sack together. That kind of weakens the fag story." And Detective Carlson responds, "The victim was a fag, the coach is a fag, and the kid is a fag. He grew up without a father, with only women around. That's a classic case, Cook." Wow. But people believe that shit. Yeah. Some people still to this day believe that shit. They genuinely believe that crap. If only it was that easy, there'd be more of us gays around and the world would be a better place.
But that's the thing, and that's, you know, why I think this film is just as important now as it was back then. You know, so much of it still stands.
Yeah. So Cook has investigated the death of Billy's parents, and there are rumours that their brakes were tampered with. Carlson is obviously dismissive of Cook's theory that Cheryl may have been the culprit of the murder. You know, well, we know that they know that she is at least saying that she did it, but the reasons behind it, he's questioning good old Cook. And he's right, by the way. Cheryl feeds Billy drugged milk, which causes him to perform poorly at his scholarship tryout, and cleans out the attic so he can have an apartment space in the house. So he's basically stuck there forever,
Mhm.
and that's what she wants. The milk
Yeah.
comes up a lot. So obviously we had the milk with Eddie where it maybe looked like something, but I think maybe we're stretching it there. But I definitely feel like the idea of mother's milk,
Yes.
of nurturing,
Mm-hmm.
is definitely deliberate
Yeah.
in this scene and later on,
Mm-hmm.
where mother's love, which is her milk, is laced with something sinister.
Uh-huh.
And that's the whole point of the film. So I like that. I like
Yeah.
that choice. It's good. So he literally collapses during the game. So he does really well, and then it takes effect. Maybe a little slower than it does later in the
Mhm.
film, but let's not get too picky about these things. But he literally collapses after doing really well, and it completely ruins his chances.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, he's just sick. Like, he literally collapses.
Mhm.
He's not missing shots.
It's always the case in films, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's,
It's the, oh no, he's not fit for our college.
no.
He has an iron deficiency. So a suspicious Billy starts snooping and finds more info on good old Chuck. Aunt Cheryl catches him and he confronts her about Chuck. He says, Chuck Strang was your boyfriend, not my mother's. And she professes her honesty in an uncomfortable way. So again, we get this weird closeness between the two, where she seems to be almost flirtatious, and he isn't really reacting to it. So he's suspicious about this whole Chuck thing and about what's happening and about whether her story about the television repair guy is true or not. But he's not really reacting to the weird incestuous part of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if that's how she's been throughout his life, then he probably thinks it's normal.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aunt Cheryl cuts her hair, and we get Susan Tyrrell's real hair now.
Yes. Jean Slater has taken over.
Slater. It's short, it's choppy. She looks in the mirror and she says, "That's better," and it certainly is.
Is it?
Well, it's not synthetic. At least it's real. She talks to the photo of Chuck again about her new hairdo. And we find out that she's keeping a skeleton lying around as well, which we assume is good old Chuck. So Billy has Julie stop by the house to distract Cheryl so that he can investigate further. And I love Susan Tyrrell's facial expressions and her physicality as she tenderizes a steak and then breaks down to Julie. It's so camp.
It's so camp.
It's really... Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming in some way she's obviously basing it on the hagsploitation. It's Betty Davis and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It's all of that, and it's so good.
Yeah, pounding some meat, whilst threatening to kick her out of the house. It's so camp.
Good. So Billy finds his birth certificate locked in a box upstairs. It indicates that Cheryl is actually his mother and that Chuck was his father. Gasp. Meanwhile, downstairs, Cheryl decides to tenderize something else, being Julie's head.
Yeah.
And she hides Julie somewhere away.
Yes.
So nosy neighbour and friend Margie pops round with a cheesecake and sports magazines for Billy. We saw that her and her husband, I can't remember her husband, they were there earlier in the film and right after the murder, so they're sort of involved in that sense, but she's not relevant until this point, to be fair. She initially laughs at Cheryl's hair, which I thought was a bit harsh. Maybe I'm in the wrong here. I seem to be the only one who likes the haircut.
Let's not forget she cut it herself.
She did. I think
she's a professional hairdresser.
So Cheryl again drugs Billy with milk, rendering him unconscious. He awakens and Cheryl reveals the truth about Chuck and her being Billy's parents. She tells him that Chuck was going to leave just like Billy is going to leave to college and such. So we get the insinuation that she may have killed Chuck.
Yeah.
Margie believes something is up and sneaks around the house, confronting Cheryl after she tells Julie's parents that Julie had never been there. Love the delivery of when Susan Tyrrell goes, do you always listen on other people's phone conversations? I'm not doing it justice. It's good.
Margie's a queen. She is taking on full Nancy Drew responsibilities.
She is. She's sneaking in under the stairs, out. She's having and she's quite light-footed as well.
Yeah.
She's really going for it.
Mm-hmm.
She's giving Jessica Fletcher a run for her money. Julie awakens in a secret room in the basement where she discovers Chuck's mummified corpse and his severed head in a jar of formaldehyde next to Cheryl's makeshift shrine. After eventually leaving the house, Margie is followed into the woods by Cheryl, who stabs her to death with a machete. Now, this is a real highlight.
Yeah, this goes full Friday the 13th.
Yes, absolutely. Aunt Cheryl is deranged now, completely deranged. Poor Margie.
Yeah.
She gets the machete right across the stomach. It's high camp. It's raining. There's lightning. It's all of that good stuff. After Julie's parents call him regarding Julie's whereabouts, Sergeant Cook then enters the house in search of Julie. He is also murdered by Cheryl after discovering Julie in the basement. He goes to switch on the light and she chops off his hand. Yeah. This isn't the bloodiest film.
No.
It's not.
But it's still been onto the video nasty.
Yeah, I think the themes maybe helped in that one. The sexual part of it, with the violence and such. But yeah, chops off his hand and then slices his neck. Cheryl chases Julie out of the house and they both fall in a pond near the woods, where Cheryl again knocks Julie unconscious. Again...
It's her delivery. Come here, slut.
Come here, slut. Amazing. Poor Margie catches a stray when Julie moves out of the way of a machete slice.
Yes.
Did you see that when she gets the machete to the leg? Poor Margie. She's not suffered enough. She's already dead. Again, high camp. The wrestling in the pond. Billy awakens in the attic, which Cheryl has adorned with his childhood toys, and stumbles downstairs to call the police. While he is attempting to dial 911, Cheryl attacks him with a knife, and a violent struggle ensues, ending with Billy impaling her with a fireplace poker.
This has got a great jump scare here. So first, she attacks him with the phone cord, and then he stabs her with a knife. She gives a bit of Freddy Krueger 3 years before Freddy Krueger. She's like, I'm your girlfriend now.
Yeah.
But, you think she's dead. She's got a knife to the heart. But she fucking leaps back up and attacks him with the knife. And it's a really, really great jump scare.
Mm-hmm.
And then he calls Tom, asking him for help.
Yeah, he says, my mother's dead. I just killed her. I thought, maybe it's not the best time to call her mother, because it would just confuse people. Like, I feel like you have to explain the whole...
Yeah, probably.
Chuck and Cheryl being your parents. Like, yeah, of course your mum's dead. She's in a car crash. Like, yeah, everyone knows that. Shortly after, Carlson arrives at the house where he finds Tom treating Billy's stab wounds and sees Cheryl's lifeless body on the floor. In a rage, Carlson blames Billy and Tom for the crimes and draws his gun on them, despite Julie's insistent cries that Cheryl was responsible. Tom and Carlson getting into a scuffle, during which Billy is able to grab the gun, shooting Carlson multiple times. Carlson bleeds to death in front of the living room piano, while Billy and Julie embrace, both crying. What I find interesting in this is that Tom saves the day.
Yeah.
Tom is a homosexual character, out proud.
Yeah.
Essentially. He's forced to quit his job, but because he wants to be out and proud and he's got nothing to be ashamed of, so, he takes the high road in that sense, or what he believes is the high road. He doesn't save them from Aunt Cheryl.
No.
He saves them from Carlson.
Yeah.
Essentially, when he has that scuffle with Carlson, he saves the day and saves Billy, because Carlson is very much ready to shoot both of them, despite what Julie's saying. So I found that very interesting because Billy and Julie essentially saved themselves,
Yeah.
which final girl and boy, which is brilliant. It's so refreshing to see a final boy in a film and a female killer as well. You don't get that too often, but to have Tom also save the day, but save the day from Carlson, who is meant to be the one that saves the day.
Yeah.
He's meant to be, the police are there. You remember at the end of Friday the 13th where the police turn up and we're, lured into a false sense of security because we think, oh, the day saved, the police are here, all this, that, and the other. Well, in this film, when the police arrive, the danger is back.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting and really well done. This is what should essentially be a throwaway slasher film, and Lord knows we love a throwaway slasher film, but this kind of shit I feel elevates it and makes
definitely.
it way more interesting and not just your normal fare. So before the credits roll, a brief narrative explains that Billy stood trial for Carlson's death but was unanimously acquitted due to temporary insanity. It also states that Billy and Julie are attending college together.
Yeah, so I mean, also there's a happy ending still from that cop being killed. It's very ahead of its time, and no other horror films doing this in the 80s.
No, not at all. Yeah. Susan Tyrrell was wrong.
She was.
It wasn't a piece of shit. I'm glad she got to watch it and be like, oh yeah, I did a fucking good job in that.
Yeah. And that is Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker.
Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker.
A film that's so much better than it has any right to be.
Yeah. Yeah, really, fantastic. Highly recommend. If people, and it doesn't... Queer horror, I feel, has grown, but not as much as maybe I would hope. And these kind of films are few and far between. But if anyone asks me, what's a great queer horror film, and I don't think it was made by queer filmmakers. I'm not sure on that count, but I would absolutely highly recommend this as queer horror. If anyone said, give me a film to watch for Pride Month that's horror, I would absolutely give this film.
Definitely. Should we give some awards then?
Absolutely. Biggest queen.
Margie.
Oh yeah, I do love Margie. Oh, God bless her. Detective Margie. Margie Fletcher. I went with Susan Tyrrell. I suppose that's
really
not the character, the actress.
Okay.
Because I didn't really like Julie too much.
Breaking his own rules.
But I forgot Margie, so I'm definitely going with Margie.
Biggest gasp. I've got Cheryl coming back to life after being stabbed in the heart because it genuinely made me jump.
Well, I went with, I suppose that... Our first watch, I forgot how many times the word was said.
Yeah.
But genuinely, fag, it was a gasp to me. And I suppose in any film where the word comes up, particularly out of context...
I feel like I expect it whenever I watch a film from the 80s. I feel like I always expect it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... I don't know. It's obviously like we say, every film is a product of its time.
Yeah.
There is going to be that kind of language, homophobic, and ableist language, and sometimes racist language as well. And it doesn't say we don't forgive it, we don't think it's okay, but context matters.
Yeah.
And I feel like in this film, hearing the word was a gasp to me. I didn't realize it was so much. That's not me. I don't think it's detrimental to the film, though. I don't want it to sound that way.
Best dialogue, I have poor guy, definitely wasn't his day, didn't even get his pecker out.
Come here, slut.
And that's Cam. I've got Cheryl pounded some steak with a meat tenderizer before hitting Julia over the head with it.
I went with Cheryl killing Margie.
Ratings, I give it 9 Gene Slater haircuts out of 10.
I gave it 8 synthetic Farrah Fawcett wigs out of 10.
Masterpiece, trash, basic, or Camp Old Bunch of Fun. I think I'd go with Camp Old Bunch of Fun. Even though it has some serious themes in there, there is still a lot of camp fun to be found.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun film with a message and with layers to it.
Yeah. It's available on 4K, Blu-ray and video on demand. And if you enjoyed this, I recommend checking out Die Die My Darling.
Yes. If you enjoyed this, I recommend checking out Sleepaway Camp. I feel like it's got a very similar energy to it.
And we are Horror Cult Trash over on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. Horror Cult Trash on Twitter. I'm Dead@Gaz92 on Letterboxd. Gazmo205 on Instagram and GazCruise92 on Twitter.
I am Chris Barker823 on Instagram and Letterboxd.
And we're also Gasp Horrorfest across all social media as well. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, then it is a week Friday until this takes place. And I can't
so close. Get your tickets. Yes.
Give us a rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, like and follow on everything else. Next week, we are being joined by our one guest for Pride Month.
Yes.
We are going to be joined by the always fantastic Unbound and Rewound Horror Podcast to discuss the Grace Jones masterpiece that is Vamp.
Yes. Very excited.
Yes. So we'll be back. Same time, same place next week.
Bye.